Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try something new today, uh, and I hope it works. We shall see. I think there's a book that we need in this day and age, more than we might need others. And so, in that spirit, I'm going to present this book and see how it goes. This book is called The Essential Tao. It's a combination of the Tao Te Ching, which takes up about, takes up about 60 pages. And then it has the Chuang-Tzu, which is more advanced and we won't deal with now. And then it has notes by the translator. And the reason I choose this version of the Tao Te Ching, or this translation of the Tao Te Ching, I think is important. When I first started out, I just picked up a book called the Tao Te Ching, and I thought, well, this must be, the Tao Te Ching. But it turned out that it was basically someone's idea of what the Tao Te Ching might be like. And if there was something they didn't understand, they just kind of filled it in with their own imagination. Well, that's a problem for a number of reasons. But because at the time I was listening to it on tape, I listened to it literally 1,000 times or more, probably a lot more than 1,000 times. And those ideas got implanted in my brain. And then it took years for me to get them out and put in the correct or a more enlightened version of the same text. And so in this book, we have several things that are very unusual in Taoist studies. The most important thing is that we have an enlightened translator, right? A highly, highly, highly realized master who was also a master translator and who translated from the original Chinese from several different versions throughout his life. But also he was very, very highly trained academically. He trained in Asia, in at least China and Japan. And he was a practitioner as well. And so these three things together are very, very precious for the rest of us. And the Tao Te Ching is also precious to us because here is a spiritual tradition that dates back 2,500 years or so, that doesn't require belief, isn't a religion, although later, and we'll talk about that later, that they tried to make it into one. But here is the quintessence of the Taoist approach, which I think almost every culture and every culture since has acknowledged as a fount of wisdom. And so, and in these days when we're so polarized in all kinds of ways, politically, religiously, economically, geopolitically, and we have such rapid change, with the AIs bearing down on us and all of the advances that are being made or have been made in biology, for good or for ill, and this constant threat of nuclear catastrophe. It's good to have something that we can return to for basic sanity. And so it's in that spirit, the spirit of basic sanity, that I present this book and hope that it will be of help to some people. It's called The Essential Tao. It's translated by Thomas Cleary, and it's available on Amazon and many other places. Although I notice it's not nearly as popular as the fake versions, which is a little bit disconcerting, but actually can be predicted and is actually mentioned in the original text, right? That people are more attracted to something other than the truth, something that gives them immediate comfort or a feeling of immediate understanding or immediate superiority, and all kinds of kind of strange psychological things that we may or may not go into. But what I thought I'd do is I'd start with the introduction, and then maybe if things go well, or if they go the way they might go, we'll go through each of these 80 chapters in turn. But let's start with the introduction. Here we go. Tao is one of the most basic and comprehensive symbols in the Chinese language, the center of all philosophical and spiritual discourse. It may mean a path, a way, a principle, a method, a doctrine, a system of order, and it may also mean the matrix, structure, and reality of the universe itself. Now, this word matrix has been much abused, but it comes from the word a mother, matrimonial, maternity, matriarchy. It means mother. And so matrix is a word that figures quite a bit in ancient texts. And it's a reason why this channel is titled Matrix of Mind, Mother of Mind. Every art and science is called a Tao, or a way, but the source of everything, the fountain of all art and science, is called the Tao, or the way, with a capital T, the Tao, or the way, with a capital W. Taoism is based first and foremost on the experience of this universal way, the essential reality through which all derivative ways might be comprehended. So this is this is important. Taoism is based first and foremost on the experience of this universal way, the essential reality through which all derivative ways might be comprehended. So whatever your ilk, whatever your tradition, whatever your religious or even atheistic inclinations, this will enrich it, because what we're talking about is the experience of the essential reality through which all derivative ways might be comprehended. So you can use this regardless of your political, religious, cultural, etc. Affiliation or inclination, which is another reason why I think it's very valuable to the world these days. But it has been for 2,500 years. It's been a continuous study and valued everywhere. So that right there is remarkable. Very few books can lay claim to that. And the ones that can, you're familiar with, so I won't say anything about those, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay. I should get a bookmark to keep my... Here, I'll use this. Considering the ultimate nature of the way to be inherently beyond the bounds of human conception, ancient Taoists sought traces of the way in the patterns of events taking place in the natural world, the social world, the inner world of the individual psyche. Or psyche. Okay, so listen to this. Considering the ultimate nature of the way to be inherently beyond the bounds of human conception. So it's beyond the bounds of human conception, and this may sound highfalutin or something like that, but what it means is that when you realize the Tao, you realize it cannot be placed in words, as many things cannot be put into words or concepts. And so that's why in other translations they say the Tao that can be said is not the eternal Tao, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Yeah, you can't speak this, you can only apprehend it, you can only assimilate to it, you can only go along with it. And we'll get into that more later. Considering the ultimate nature of the way to be inherently beyond the bounds of human conception, ancient Taoists sought traces of the way in the patterns of events taking place in the natural world. The social world, now this is something most people don't understand about the Tao Te Ching, it also includes the social world, not just the natural world, and the inner world. And this is something else people don't understand. This is a very, very deep, and profound approach to the development of the interior life of the human being. So it could also serve as it did, although it was mainly Confucianists that took that segment, the segment of the tonal, of the manifest world of things and objects and concepts. And the Confucianists kind of took that part. The Taoists were a layer underneath that. And that layer underneath does not truck with one political or ideological position or another. It's foundational to that. Okay, while followers of Taoism thus branched out into many different fields of research and work, those interested primarily in the essential Tao continued to focus on perfecting the mastery of human nature and life in three critical areas. You ready? Three critical areas. 1, individual well-being. 2, social harmony. And 3, accelerated evolution of consciousness. So just think about that. Let's take them in turn. 1, individual well-being. So you can study the Tao and you will feel better, do better, be more successful, frankly. Otherwise, why would it still be around after 3,000 years, 2,500 years? So 3 areas: individual well-being, social harmony. I think we might be able to use a little bit more of that these days here in the West, okay? And perhaps there's some wisdom in here that we can apply, either to forestall what looks like it's coming or to repair after it's come. I'm not going to say more about that right now. But so we have individual well-being, social harmony, and listen to this: accelerated evolution of consciousness, and that is true. So if you want to evolve your consciousness, it's very hard to think of a single book that's going to do that as efficiently, as free of dogma, as free of opinion, as open to just individual observation and verification as this text here. There are, of course, others, but they tend to be Taoists too, right? And then there's other programs of development. There's the magnificent Tibetan Buddhist program, but that's really, you really got to be a Buddhist to do that, or you have to be into Tantra. Nothing wrong with that, but it does require some sort of identification or affiliation with a particular culture or tradition. And then, of course, the Sufis, who have been around long before Islam and will continue and have continued. All right. These 3 bases were believed to form the foundation of overall human development, the guiding lights of the arts and science, and successful practice of this way that can be a guide but not a fixed path, does indeed lead to scientific creativity and artistic creativity, just as it leads to the well-being of humans individually and collectively. I got to be careful because I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just trying to let you know it's here. All right? Okay. Okay. Next paragraph. Through generations of applying the Tao to these 3 basic domains of life, extraordinary accomplishments in the maintenance of physical vitality, fostering sensitive and effective relations between people, and development of latent mental powers, including spontaneous insight and foreknowledge, came to be recognized as byproducts of working with the way. So you work with the way, and your sensitivity develops, your well-being develops, your consciousness, the development of your consciousness is accelerated if you're serious. I don't know how you can't be serious about something like this, frankly. And it includes spontaneous insight, right? What they call flashes of insight, so treasured by the Buddhists and any other, and the Hindus, Advaita Vedas, Vedanta, and any other tradition that's interested in waking up. So you can wake up here too. And these latent mental powers, such as spontaneous insight and foreknowledge, came to be recognized as byproducts of working with the way. Yeah. It makes you smarter is what it does. It makes you more creative also, and it makes you freer, and it makes you happier, and it makes you lighter. So again, it's been studied continuously for a reason, folks, okay? Furthermore, according to the ethos of the way, these developments, once realized, were not to be guarded possessively, but put in the service of humanity. Okay, good. Well, I feel better about this. Yeah. Oh no, they're talking. Furthermore, according to the ethos of the way, these developments, once realized, were not to be guarded possessively, but put into the service of humanity. In other words, we don't sequester this knowledge away and hide it in a cave, or put it in a jar and bury it or something like that. No, the fruit of this labor is meant to assist us humans in our difficult situations sometimes. In accordance with the elusive nature of the way, the beneficial results of its application by individuals were not to be paraded proudly before others, but be diffused in an inconspicuous yet effective manner. Okay, so this is not something where you put on the big Pope's cap, and you build a huge cathedral, and everybody gets to wear a cool uniform, and show how spiritual they are. It's not like that. Let's see what it is like. The beneficial results of its application by individuals were not to be paraded proudly before others, but be diffused in an inconspicuous yet effective manner. And so this is another, we'll see as we go through the text, I hope we get to go through the text, that these guys and women were inconspicuous. They're working for the world and in the world, but they don't show off. They lay low to the ground, and for example, in certainly the Sufis and the Christians, Jesus said it flat out. The meek shall inherit the earth. Well, among the meek are some of these folks, right? And they don't go putting up billboards saying how wonderful they are, how great they are. Okay, so here, this may not take as long. There are two classic Chinese books describing the essential philosophy and practice of the Tao, made public long ago as maps of the way to the way, the Tao Te Ching and the Chuang-Tzu. And the Chuang-Tzu is a riot, but it's more advanced. Both of these works have long outgrown cultural boundaries and are widely regarded as classics of world literature. Okay. Composed over 2,000 years ago, the Tao Te Ching and the Chuang-Tzu are among the world's most ancient and honored books of practical wisdom. So this is practical wisdom. It's not some academic or esoteric or secret tantra or hidden. It's not hidden. Well, it's hidden in a way, but that's only because people are not interested in truth, right? People just aren't interested in truth because they get wrapped up in their minds, and they get wrapped up in their opinions, and they get wrapped up with their ideas. And we're such acquisitive little monkeys. Once we've got something, it becomes mine, and I don't want to let go of it, even if it's detrimental. And this is especially true when it comes to concepts. This is what the Buddhists mean when they say to attachment. Attachment to concepts is that it's going to stop your spiritual development, your personal development. Yeah, because if you're stuck there, how can you get here? And the Sufis make a huge deal of helping you get rid of that baggage. Okay, when I say Sufis, by the way, I'm referring to the 20th century Sufis who through the evolution of history, became connected with Britain, and thus became very, through marriage and just the natural order of things, of course, are very, very fluent in English. And in the 20th century, they translated much of their work and their methodology into something that English speakers, especially Americans and British, could read. And so we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. Okay, coming back to the Tao Te Ching. Their subject matter ranges widely from politics and economy to psychology and mysticism, addressing the needs and interests of a diverse readership. So I don't know what you thought about the Tao Te Ching before now, but did you know it included politics and economics? Maybe people know about the mysticism, but oftentimes they don't realize that there's also that. It also has some, well, we'll get to that later. Okay. Few of the world's great books have achieved the perennial currency of these writings. Yeah, it's hard to name a book that has been as perennial for as long. But everybody has their favorite. But this does not take away from that. This is lower to the ground than that, in a manner of speaking. Okay. The Tao Te Ching is an anthology of ancient sayings, poems, and proverbs. Its compilation is attributed to the prototypical Lao Tzu, the old master, who is regarded as one of the greatest ancestors of Taoism. And then he talks a little bit about the Chuang-Tzu. We can skip that. But he does present it together in this book for later, for more advanced studies. And he says that together they present the philosophical and practical core of classical Taoism. And then we get into a little history. The Tao Te Ching is commonly believed to have been compiled around 500 BC, near the end of the Spring and Autumn era, when the social and political order of China was disintegrating rapidly. Now, this is important, and this is why I'm here. There was a time when the social and political order of a great empire was disintegrating rapidly. These things were written in response to that. And the nature of them is such that they apply even now. And I don't think many people would argue with me that the social and political order in the Western world is disintegrating rapidly. And so we need something that we can touch base with, something that's inherently, you can't turn this into an ideology on one side or the other. You can't turn it into a religion that rejects some and accepts others, and unfortunately, tragically, oftentimes when under stress, we'll start to demonize the other. And that our human history is just full of that, the bloodshed in the name of the church. Which, by the way, isn't so much the church, but it's the usurping of the use of the church as a political army or weapon or arm of propaganda. But I digress. Okay. And just for completeness, the Chuang-Tzu was written about 300 BC, about 200 years later, during the era of the Warring States, when the classical civilization of China was all but destroyed by civil wars. So hopefully we won't be needing to go to the Chuang-Tzu anytime soon. But who knows? By the middle of the 2nd century, after the unification of China, the Tao Te Ching was firmly established at the imperial court as a favorite source book of practical wisdom. The more arcane Chuang-Tzu was transmitted in Taoist circles, as evidenced in the appearance of many allusions to it in later Taoist works of the pre-Christian era, eventually to emerge in the 3rd century AD as a popular classic of deep learning, ranked with the I Ching and the Tao Te Ching. And at some point, I should probably, I watched this 3-body problem. What a disaster. Go to the Chinese version. But the Netflix version, they basically show the I Ching as this occult, mystic piece of garbage, that it has no use. It's just primitive thinking. But see, they don't understand what it was used for, and they don't understand what it is. And it would be nice sometime if the Westerners could sometimes like think a little bit more, read a little bit more, understand a little bit more before they go and denigrate something that is of inestimable value in the past and now. It's a binary code, and it's a structure of 64 figures, and it's used for thinking. It's used for comprehensive evaluation of a situation. Yes, it was used as an oracle at some times in history, but the Greeks had that, and so just because something can be misused does not mean it's of no value. And frankly, with synchronicity and other effects, and also I don't want to go into the details, and I don't want to defend the I Ching now, but for those of you who think that it's just a relic from a more primitive age, I suggest you read the Taoist I Ching. And I mean, Leibniz, the mathematician, thought the world of it. Here's a binary code, folks. And they understood the power of a binary code. I mean, to a point, right? Okay, anyway, I digress. Ever since that time, virtually all literate people in China have read the Tao Te Ching and Chuang-Tzu. So the I Ching is used for consultation so you can think. It gives you different approaches of the same problem. And in so doing, it creates a more comprehensive view of the situation, which is of inestimable value in science, in politics, in personal situations, in personal development. And so it was very sad to see Netflix do that. Very sad. Ever since that time, virtually all literate people in China have read the Tao Te Ching. Okay. Ever since that time, virtually all literate people in China have read the Tao Te Ching and the Chuang-Tzu. Countless readers have found an endless fascination and enlightenment in the pregnant aphorisms and fantastic allegories of these ancient classics. Over the centuries, the Tao Te Ching in particular has inspired many social and spiritual movements, as well as a vast body of literature. Various traditions on this text evolve among the Taoist, Buddhist, Confucian, legalist, and martial schools of thought. So it's like a floor, a foundation of many different schools of thought. And it's very big in the martial arts too, as it should be, because these principles are the foundation of the martial arts as we commonly conceive them in the West. All right. Boy, this is not so good. At one time, state colleges of mysticism were even established by the Chinese government for study of the philosophy of the Tao Te Ching. People who had mastered it were sought as advisors by all kinds of peoples, from emperors to peasants. When the Taoist canon was put to the torch by the order of the Mongol rulers of China in 1280, this Tao Te Ching alone was spared destruction. This one. So whenever you try and systematize something beyond a certain point, you lose it. Especially something refined or subtle, nuanced, sensitive. You can't institutionalize it, but almost by definition, although people tried, because the practitioners of this way were highly sought after. And you can see why, because they have a more comprehensive perspective. They can see, they don't just look in one direction. They can see up, down, east, west, right, left, sideways, warm, cold, how things work together, how things can interfere with that harmonious working together. And they just approach problems in a totally different way, much more comprehensive way, much less ego or ideologically driven way. Although, okay, so this text, all right, that we're referring to now, again, the Essential Tao, although it's the entire book. Okay. Although commonly associated with Taoism, this classic was actually studied and transmitted by all the main streams of Chinese philosophy. Studied by all of them. Commentators on it include mystics, poets, statesmen, martial artists, and numerous separate works have also been written based on some of its idea. Yeah, in the United States, we went nuts with it. I mean, it became the Tao of Pooh, the Tao of, weeding your garden, the Tao of I mean, it became ridiculous. And without an understanding of what they were using and the preciousness and the depth and the power of this finger pointing at the moon. Over the centuries, this single text spawned a vast and complex literature reflecting many levels of meaning revealed and concealed within its ancient sayings. The Tao Te Ching has been translated countless times into Western languages, including English, French, German, Italian, Russian, Turkish, and Latin. It was first rendered into English more than 100 years ago and has been retranslated, paraphrased, and adapted dozens of times since then. I'd say a lot more than a dozen. If you go to Amazon, there's the Tao of shining your shoes, pretty much. This volume on the Essential Tao presents a new annotated English version of this classic text translated from the original Chinese. Okay, so that's the intro. Then he goes into the Chuang-Tzu. We don't need to do that right now. But the Chuang-Tzu is also a very remarkable text. Okay, so for today, let's just be satisfied with the introduction. I hope this is useful for folks. And if there are questions or comments or even requests, let me know, preferably on X, but also on YouTube. That's the way to reach me. And what I hope to do is next I'll start with the first chapter. And why don't I end with that, because it's beautiful and it's very profound. And so maybe what we can do is we can study some of the aspects of what it means, if it's not obvious, sometime down the road. The first chapter reads, "A way can be a guide, but not a fixed path." Just that right there. A way can be a guide, but not a fixed path. So many times we get into formulaic ideas about how things should occur. And it works for some things, but it doesn't work at all for others. And so it's going to be hard for me to get through this. Okay. A way can be a guide, chapter 1. A way can be a guide, but not a fixed path. Names can be given, but not permanent labels. Nonbeing is called the beginning of heaven and earth. Being is called the mother of all things. Always passionless, thereby observe the subtle. Ever intent, thereby observe the apparent. These two come from the same source, but differ in name. Both are considered mysteries. The mystery of mysteries is the gateway of marvels. Let me read it one more time, and then we can talk about it maybe next time, or maybe I'll just keep going. I don't know. This is the first line of the Tao Te Ching in this iteration. A way can be a guide, but not a fixed path. Names can be given, but not permanent labels. Non-being is called the beginning of heaven and earth. Being is called the mother of all things. Always passionless, thereby observe the subtle. Ever intent, thereby observe the apparent. These two come from the same source, but differ in name. Both are considered mysteries. The mystery of mysteries is the gateway of marvels. So one thing you might do is pull out your version of the Tao Te Ching and see how it compares to that. And then see what, well, I was going to say see what you prefer and just stick with it. But let's give it a little bit more time, because I think it takes a while before you can realize the difference between a authentic translation, or appreciate the importance of the difference between an authentic translation and interpretation that's done by somebody from your own cultural circle. Okay? All right, folks. Thank you for listening. Let's see how it goes. And you know, I end these things with keep the faith and guard your mind, because people lose hope out there, and they get scared, and they get worried, and they get anxious. And a lot of times the mind can make that worse. Hence, keep the faith. Don't let your mind frighten you. And then guard your mind. Don't let anybody else's mind or algorithm or propaganda, which we're inundated with, or deliberate attempt to manipulate you for money, which is what's happening all over the place. And it's gone way out of control. And there are bad people in the world, and some of them are posting, and some of them are involved in warfare and propaganda and government and all kinds of other things, and they don't care about your mind. As a matter of fact, they want to capture it and use it for their own ends. And so for a number of reasons, it's important to also guard your mind and remember, if you start spending time on social media or on the tube, the television, and you notice you don't feel good, first of all, notice that it doesn't make you feel good if it doesn't make you feel good, right? And then realize you can just turn it off and go do something else. Read a book, listen to a book. Better yet, go outside if you can possibly do it. And we have to protect ourselves from this onslaught, because the AIs and simply the amount of compute that's out there and coming up makes it imperative that the human animal, the human creature, protect their minds and their brains. All right? Bear with me. I'm an old man, and I feel protective of folks. So, okay. Take care. See you later.